Abandoned deep within the forest as a baby, he was rescued and adopted by a powerful mage, eventually rising to fame as the legendary Thunder Emperor. He made history as the youngest person to ever achieve S-rank status. However, his life of adventure grew dull. With no monster capable of challenging his might, he grew bored of his own power. At the age of 15, he decided to enroll in the Academy of Mages to discover if any human could offer the challenge he craved. Before I unveil too much of his journey, let the story begin. Sparks of lightning crackle in his hands as a young boy, clad in a black robe and a mysterious mask, points toward a horned dragon with a serpent-like tongue. With a single decisive lightning strike, he instantly defeats the creature, leaving smoke rising from various parts of its massive body. He steps over the vanquished monster as if it were nothing. Even the fearsome red dragon pales in comparison to his immense might. It is a peaceful day at the guild until a sudden boom of thunder erupts. The boy from earlier opens the doors and approaches the female guild receptionist, who is busy with paperwork. "Here you go," he says, displaying 2 fangs, 10 claws, and 1 eyeball from the defeated red dragon. He mentions that the remaining parts are in the wagon left outside, and encourages the receptionist to check for herself. In a corner of the guild, a pair of adventurers, one with messy hair and a bald man with facial scars, are drinking. They notice the boy and find him familiar, realizing he is the same person who undertook a solo S-rank quest just that morning. They are stunned that it took him less than a full day to accomplish the task. The receptionist asks if he is Van, to which the boy nods. The man with messy hair stands up in disbelief. This is indeed Van, the genius mage who achieved A rank at the youngest age in history, famously known as the Thunder Emperor. His mask bears a distinctive thunder mark over the left eye, but despite his fame, his true identity remains a mystery. He appears like a storm, overwhelming his surroundings with incredible magical power. Van is known as the strongest mage, having completed countless difficult quests entirely on his own. Rumors suggest he has finished over 50 B and A rank quests in the past year alone, and has taken down more than 5 A rank monsters. Since the requirement for promotion is to clear an S rank quest, the receptionist asks for his guild plate. The boy reveals a necklace holding an A rank plate. Upon the quest's completion, the plate glows and the letter transforms into an S. The boy has officially been promoted to S rank. The guild erupts in exhilaration. The messy-haired man and the bald man both invite him to drink, unable to believe their branch has produced an S rank adventurer. Suddenly, the branch chief, a tall man with lean muscles, approaches to join the celebration. He congratulates Van on reaching S rank at only 15 years old, and expresses his pride in the Lowood branch. However, Van has other plans. To him, S rank is merely a stepping stone, and not worth celebrating. He sighs, knowing the others are just looking for an excuse to party. Instead, he hands over the bag of gold he received from the Red Dragon quest, urging them to go wild because he has no need for the money. The messy-haired man shouts for free booze, insisting they go all out on Van's tab. The branch chief tries to stop him, but Van is in a hurry, stating he will return when he is ready for his next quest. Lightning sparks across his body, and in an instant, he vanishes in a cloud of smoke. Deep in the forest stands a wooden cabin. The boy removes his mask and greets Shella, a beautiful woman with long hair. She welcomes him home, calling him Noah, and asks about the S-rank quest. The boy's real name is Noah Arclight. He uses the alias Van, and wears a mask enchanted with perception-blocking magic as part of an assignment from his foster parent, the witch Shella Arclight. Noah claims the red dragon was too easy, requiring only a few lightning blasts to defeat. Shella isn't surprised, as she was the one who trained him. She asserts that while the dragon was just a monster, there are far more powerful humans in the world. She tries to hug Noah for a job well done, but he pushes her away, calling her annoying. Shella puffs her cheeks in frustration. Noah used to be clingy, but he has clearly entered a rebellious phase. Shella took Noah in years ago after his birth parents abandoned him in the forest, and she still sees him as a little boy. Noah, however, wants to be treated as an adult. He has reached S rank, a feat most adventurers never achieve, often getting stuck at B rank, or with great luck, A rank. S rank is the stuff of legends, yet Noah achieved it alone at record speed. Shella admits she thought it would take longer, but Noah cuts her off, reminding her that he is a genius, and that 2 years was already plenty of time. It is the perfect moment for his next task. Shella hands him an entrance ticket to a magic academy, with the name Noah Arclight already written on it. Noah thinks it's ridiculous to enroll in a school when he is already an S-rank adventurer known as the Thunder Emperor. Shella insists that for his next assignment, he must drop his false identity and unleash his magic at the academy. She tells him there is no rush to reach SS rank, and that it is time to take a break from adventuring to gain experience fighting other people, a type of training no guild can offer. The Regres Magic Academy in the royal capital is the best on the continent, attracting only the elite. Noah contemplates this and realizes Shella is right. He can defeat any monster, so he needs to experience combat against humans to discover his true path as a mage. He hopes someone there can actually challenge him. Shella doesn't know what awaits him, whether he will find someone to help him grow, or someone who will lead him to ruin. Noah can't hide his smile. He is determined to surpass everyone at the academy to earn the title of the strongest mage. Lightning crackles around him as he accepts the assignment. He leaves the house and attempts to use teleportation magic, but he misses his mark. The spell consumes a massive amount of mana, but luckily, he lands close enough to walk the rest of the way to the royal capital. Meanwhile, a girl rushes by, shouting for people to let her through. The area is crowded, and she bumps into everyone in her path. Noah sat at a restaurant, his order finally arriving, meat on the bone paired with a soda. As he ate, he mulled over his plans for after the exam. His first task would be stopping by the Adventurers Guild to temporarily suspend his license. Even now, he found it hard to believe that Shella had decided to make him a student, despite his status as an S-rank adventurer. Suddenly, a girl popped out from beneath his table. Noticing Noah's admission ticket, she immediately realized he was an examinee for the Regraz Magic Academy. Before he could ask if she was a lost child, the girl whispered that she was being chased, and begged him to let her hide. A loud voice soon called out from outside the restaurant. An old man in a suit, armed with a sword, stepped inside. Noah instantly guessed the man was looking for the girl. Since she had recognized the exam ticket, he assumed she was a fellow examinee, likely a runaway noble being dragged back home. Finding the situation more entertaining than waiting around for the exam, Noah decided to help. Without hesitation, he scooped the girl up in an awkwardly firm carry, claiming she would be caught if she stayed put, and that escaping was their best option. The girl didn't mind the indignity as long as she got away. With the request accepted, Noah dashed forward, leaping onto a table crowded with food and drinks. As customers gasped in shock, the old man shouted for him to stop running on the furniture. He then realizes that the girl Noah was carrying was the highborn young lady herself. The old man sprinted after them, calling Noah a scoundrel. Noah laughed, finding a game of tag to be a fun way to kill time, though the girl reminded him that the situation was far from a game. The chase spilled out into the streets, where the old man begged the young lady to return to the estate immediately on her mother's orders. Gathering her courage, the girl declared that she wanted to become a magician, while the old man Haru wanted to support her. He was the butler of the Raymond family. Having watched over her since childhood, he could not betray his mistress. Stopping in his tracks, he tried to show his sincerity. Noah also stopped, smiling as if to issue a challenge. His objective was clear: outrun the butler until the exam period began. Haru scoffed, refusing to believe a rogue mage could escape him. Just because Haru was old didn't mean he was weak. During his adventuring days, he had earned the title, the Lone Wolf. He wasn't about to lose to a random boy. Accepting the challenge, Haru unsheathed his sword, unwilling to stand for the disrespect of someone carrying the young lady away. He lunged, but before the blade could connect, Noah spun around with lightning crackling across his back. Like the old man, Noah hated being underestimated. In an instant, he vanished, leaving only a trail of sparks behind. The girl was stunned by the display of magic. Noah brushed off her concern, telling her it was just basic magic, and that she shouldn't freak out over every little thing. "Over here, old man," Noah's voice called from the rooftops, provoking Haru further. He taunted the butler, asking if he was all talk it. Haru glared with killing intent, but Noah was already leaping to the next roof, leaving a trail of lightning in his wake. The young lady asked where they were going, doubting Noah could truly escape Haru. Noah realized she was a bit of an airhead for not understanding that even if they shook him off, Haru would simply wait at the exam venue. A sharp wind attack sliced past Noah as he jumped, carving a crossmark into the rooftop. Haru was no longer holding back, as returning the young lady was his top priority. The girl warned Noah that no one could dodge swordsmanship as sharp as Haru's, but Noah simply noted that the old man hadn't landed a single hit yet. Feeling guilty for dragging Noah into her personal mess, the girl admitted it was selfish of her, but Noah only smiled, telling her not to worry. When she insisted one last time that Haru was too strong, Noah's confidence remained unshaken. "Relax," he said. "I'm the strongest." That was enough for her. She introduced herself as Nina and decided to place her trust in him. Noah led Haru into a secluded alley to end the game. He turned to face the butler and stated that Nina would be taking the exam. Haru bristled at hearing the young lady's name spoken so casually and expressed a deep-seated hatred for mages. Noah shrugged, noting he was just doing a job and didn't see what his profession had to do with it. His patience snapped. Haru moved with incredible speed without using a hint of magic, appearing behind Noah to unleash a storm of sword swings. However, Noah could still track his movements. Without even turning around, he cast a bolt of lightning that struck Haru square in the chest. Nina rushed to the butler in a panic, but Noah assured her he had held back just enough to put him to sleep until the exam was over. They found an inn to let Haru rest safely, as they couldn't leave an old man in the street where other pursuers might find him. Once he was settled, Nina finally asked for her savior's name. Noah happily replied, "Noah Arclight." She thanked him, but Noah asked if she was truly sure about her choice, noting she would still have to convince her family, even if she passed. Nina explained that her family came from a long line of mages, and her mother was mostly afraid of the gossip if she failed. As long as she passed, there would be no problem. Noah couldn't help but think noble pride was a joke. Suddenly, Nina panicked. There was almost no time left before the exam. They were over an hour away on foot. She felt terrible for ruining Noah's chances, but he told her to relax. Grinning, he promised they would make it instantly, though it might sting a little. In a flash of thunder, they suddenly appeared at the castle gates of the Regraz Magic Academy. Nearby examinees heard the crash of lightning and turned to see the pair, wondering if they had been struck. Nina staggered, still recovering from the shock of the transit. When she opened her eyes, she couldn't couldn't believe it. A journey that should have taken an hour had been crossed in a heartbeat. She stared at Noah in absolute awe, wondering who exactly he was. Noah and Nina arrived at the exam venue to find a massive crowd of applicants filling the auditorium. Even with such a sea of people, Nina explained that this was only a tenth of the total. The academy was forced to split the entrance exam over 10 days just to accommodate everyone. When Noah asked about the number of available spots, Nina revealed there were only 90. Rather than being intimidated, Noah was relieved. 90 was a higher number than there were S-rank adventurers in the world, so he figured passing would be a piece of cake. As they sat together, a man in glasses and a cloak took the stage. This was Reynold, the exam overseer. He welcomed the group to the 4th day of testing, complimenting the applicants on their sharp expressions but bluntly noting that many unworthy mages apply to elite schools. He wondered aloud which side of the line this group would fall on. After provoking the crowd, Reynold laid out the instructions. The practical portion would be a mock battle against a prepared mage. He assured them that while the assigned opponents might vary, a standard evaluation system was in place to ensure no one passed by mere luck. With a final wish of luck, he dismissed them to the training grounds listed on their tickets. While walking through the hallways, Noah asked Nina if she felt confident. She replied that she wouldn't dare disobey her parents if she weren't. A stark contrast to the girl who had struggled to escape her butler earlier. Their conversation was interrupted by a boy in expensive clothing who recognized Nina. Attempting to steal the spotlight, he acted with an air of immense self-importance. Noah, unimpressed, gave him a blank stare and asked who he was. The boy, Roofhouse, was visibly provoked. He demanded to know why Noah was hanging around Lady Nina, even mistaking him for a new butler. When Noah clarified he was just a regular applicant, Roofhouse burst into laughter. He mocked Noah for being a commoner with the audacity to apply to such a prestigious academy, calling him delusional. Noah calmly countered that he was likely more skilled in magic than anyone else at the school. This sent Roofhouse into another fit of laughter, asking Nina if she had hired a street performer for entertainment. Noah repeated his statement with dead seriousness, slowing down his speech to emphasize his point. Roofhouse's amusement turned to anger. He told Noah to burn the sight of real magic into his eyes before he left, as the exam fee was a waste of money for a commoner. He urged Nina to stop associating with Noah to protect her status, but Nina firmly defended him. Roofhouse was stunned to see a duke's daughter stand up for a commoner, a revelation that shocked Noah, who had assumed Nina was just a minor noble from the countryside. Nina apologized for keeping her status a secret, fearing Noah would pull away if he knew she was the daughter of a duke. Roofhouse continued his sarcasm, hoping Noah wouldn't embarrass himself too badly, and proudly identified himself as the second son of the Andestar family, a bloodline of geniuses. Noah provoked him further by calling him a rich boy, and they were on the verge of a fight when a teacher called Noah and Nina's names for their exam. Nina hurried Noah away, telling him he didn't need to make enemies on purpose. She was relieved to see that her status didn't change Noah's opinion of her. He noted that while he was surprised, they were still friends, and he knew she wasn't like other arrogant nobles. They arrived at the outdoor training grounds, where the examiner introduced himself as Guns Tyler, a former knight and S-rank adventurer. The other applicants were in awe, but Noah was merely curious. Nina whispered a rumor about a boy their own age named Van, the Thunder Emperor, who had recently become an S-rank. Noah played dumb to keep his identity a secret. Guns Tyler warned the group that while he was honored to be recognized, he was there on official business and would not be using his swords for the test. Noah saw this as a personal challenge and resolved to make the man draw his blade. 40 minutes into the exam, not one of the 20 applicants had landed a hit. Guns was disappointed, having hoped for better entertainment. When Noah's turn came, he stepped onto the stage, whispering that it would be easy. Guns noticed Noah was a commoner, but admired his fighting spirit. However, the examiner's confidence wavered when Noah insisted Guns would need both of his swords for the fight. Guns lectured him on the dangers of overestimating oneself, but Noah taunted him back, calling his lecturing the mark of a third-rate fighter. Guns unleashed a wind attack with his palm to force Noah into close range. With a smile, Noah raised his hand and commanded, "Spark." He unleashed a bolt of thunder magic so powerful that Guns was forced to block it with his sword, which trembled from the impact. Realizing this was no basic spell, Guns finally drew his magic sword, Sugar. The other applicants watched in shock as the examiner went all out, summoning a massive gale of wind. Noah simply smiled at the move. 3 magic circles appeared like clouds above Guns as Noah shouted, "Thunderbolt." The sheer force of the 3 lightning strikes dissipated the gale and forced Guns to block with every ounce of his strength. The light was blinding. When it faded, Guns was on his knees, defeated. Realizing the truth, he asked Noah if he was the Thunder Emperor. Noah replied that he was currently just a commoner named Noah Arclight. Guns admitted defeat and declined to continue the fight to avoid further embarrassment. Noah asked if he had passed, and while Guns couldn't officially reveal the results, he noted that failing someone of Noah's caliber would be impossible. He told Noah he looked forward to the day his real name became as famous as the alias Van. With the battle over, Guns called the next candidate to step forward, Nina von Raymond. Nina von Raymond took the stage, and Noah cheered her on, urging her to give the performance of her life. With a signal from the examiner, her individual test began. Nina drew her spellbook and began a complex incantation, a master-servant contract involving a blood and mana covenant known as the 8 Trials. On her command, a small winged fairy appeared, the wind spirit, Sylph. Guns Tyler smiled, recognizing the rarity of summoning magic, but he didn't hold back, unleashing the same gale force wind he had used against previous applicants. It was a perfect stalemate. In a battle of wind against wind, the spirit held the advantage. Guns was impressed, knowing that summoning spirits was notoriously difficult to master. Seizing the diversion created by the clashing winds, Nina charged forward with bold determination. As Guns unsheathed his sword to meet her, Nina suddenly stepped aside, revealing that her spirit had already finished preparing a second spell. The unexpected blast caught Guns completely off guard, blowing the sword from his hand and leaving him unarmed. After Nina wiped the sweat from her brow, Guns complimented her brilliant tactical use of the spirit's hidden attack. Following the long day of testing, the pair left the academy for some fresh air. Noah praised Nina's summoning, noting that wielding a high-ranking spirit like Ruchan must have drained her mana significantly. Nina thanked him, admitting she couldn't have made it through the day without his support. While Noah insisted he didn't expect anything in return, Nina promised to be there for him whenever he needed help. They parted ways, vowing to give their all if they both passed. Noah then headed to the formidable castle-like guild headquarters. Inside, Cordelia Shibario, the guildmaster of adventurers, recognized the masked boy immediately. Despite Noah just reaching S rank, he informed her that he was seeking a temporary leave of absence to pursue a different path. Cordelia was reluctant to let him go, noting that requests for his services from nobles and bureaucrats had skyrocketed since his promotion. Noah apologized for the short notice but stood firm, asking her to decline all requests on his behalf. Recognizing his determination, Cordelia eventually accepted his request on the condition that he return for any major emergencies. Outside, Noah walked the streets and finally removed his mask. He spoke to it as if it were an old friend, promising to wear it again one day. Sensing someone following him, he quickly replaced the mask. It was Clarice Rutherford, an A-rank adventurer and a massive fan of Lord Van. She had followed him from the guild just to ask for a handshake. Noah obliged, and though she shyly asked for a hug as well, he gave her a blank stare that prompted her to quickly retract the request and head off, happy just to have met him. 6 months passed. At Shella's cabin in the woods, she admired his new uniform, but warned him about the strict rules at Regraz. When she insisted he visit her often, Noah jokingly said he'd only come if he felt like it. Blocking her attempt to pat his head, he used his thunder teleportation to depart for school, as Shella whispered for him to take care. Upon arriving at Regras Magic Academy, Noah was greeted by the morning buzz of students. A boy with long black hair named Arthur Elliott introduced himself. Arthur explained that he came from a fallen noble house and hoped to restore his family's name. When Noah revealed he was a commoner, Arthur was shocked. It was nearly unheard of for a commoner to pass the elite entrance exam. Noah confidently attributed it to being a genius, and the two quickly became friends and comrades in ambition as they headed to the entrance ceremony. After the ceremony, Nina spotted them and called out to Noah. Arthur was flabbergasted that Noah was on such familiar terms with the daughter of a duke, but Noah explained they were simply friends. Nina encouraged Arthur to treat her as an equal, and he quickly adapted, calling her Nina-chan. The peace was broken by the arrival of Rufos, the arrogant noble from the exams. He was outraged that a commoner trash like Noah had passed, suggesting the examiners were either incompetent or bribed. Nina and Arthur both jumped to Noah's defense, but Rufos claimed to have a witness, his eldest brother, who alleged that Guns Tyler had faked an injury to let Noah pass out of spite. Noah remained unbothered, smiling as he pointed out that he had passed while Rufos had failed. Rufos mocked Noah's lack of noble pride and accused him of being a fraud who relied on second-rate magic. Refusing to continue the verbal sparring, Noah challenged the noble to prove his strength through magic. Provoked and angry, Rufos threw down a challenge for a duel, declaring there was no need to wait for classes to begin when they could settle things that very night. The Colosseum stood empty, exactly as intended. At opposite ends of the arena floor, Noah warmed up for his duel against Roofhouse. Nina and Arthur rushed to the sidelines as spectators. While Nina believed in Noah's strength, she couldn't hide her worry. Arthur shared her concern, though he was more eager to see Noah finally land a solid punch on the arrogant noble. Roofhouse began the encounter by mocking Noah, expressing surprise that the commoner hadn't fled. He found it amusing that Noah had two friends supporting him, remarking that had he known sooner, he would have escorted Noah to the arena himself. Nina voiced her disapproval, stating that the duel was wrong. She urged Roofhouse to drop his disdain for commoners and seek mutual understanding instead. Roofhouse conceded slightly, claiming he would have preferred to find common ground, but insisted that Noah had specifically insulted him and cheated on his exams. He declared that a lowly creature like Noah deserved punishment. When Nina tried to continue the argument, Noah interrupted. He had heard enough. Since Roofhouse refused to listen to reason, Noah decided to teach him a lesson through force. Nina was eventually persuaded. She could no longer tolerate Roofhouse insulting her friend, and firmly believed that remarkable individuals existed regardless of birth. She noted that at Regras Magic Academy, nobility held no significance, and prompted Noah to prove it. Roofhouse approached and added a wager to the duel. If he won, Noah would have to kneel, lick his shoes, and rub his forehead on the ground in apology. Afterward, Roofhouse intended to use the commoner as he pleased, until he felt like forgiving him. Noah smiled and proposed his own conditions. If he won, Roofhouse would have to address him as Lord Noah. This provoked the noble further, but he ultimately agreed to the terms. Roofhouse pulled a gold coin from his pocket and flipped it high into the air. The moment the coin hit the ground, the duel began. He raised kissed his hand, declaring it was too late for regrets, and telling Noah to tremble at the disparity in strength between them. Multiple magic circles appeared around Roofhouse as he promised to skewer Noah with his signature attack, Ice Edge. He challenged Noah to dodge the barrage of icy thorns, betting that a commoner had never seen magic on such a scale. Just as the attack was about to strike, Noah whispered a single word, Flash. Roofhouse laughed, convinced Noah wouldn't have time to finish a spell. He taunted the commoner to surrender to avoid death, but in his overconfidence, he failed to notice he had already been knocked to the ground. The noble lay there, staring up at the night sky, physically unharmed but utterly bewildered. As he looked around, he realized Noah was already standing behind him. Noah pointed out the irony of Roofhouse's claim that he was too slow. Arthur was equally confused, asking why Roofhouse had seemingly fallen over on his own, but Nina corrected him, explaining that Noah had used his lightning magic. Noah elaborated, explaining that he had simply shifted slightly and swept Roofhouse's legs, adding that the noble's dramatic fall had only served to provoke him further. Clearly flustered, Roofhouse tried to maintain his composure. He admitted to letting his guard down for a moment, to which Noah remarked it was fortunate he could reflect on his actions. The noble bristled, asserting that as a highborn, he bore the duty of always being the strongest. Determined to show no mercy, Roofhouse resolved to hold nothing back. As a son of House Endesta, losing to a commoner was unacceptable. Suddenly, multiple magic circles appeared, showcasing the Endesta family's secret technique, a multi-directional ice attack. Arthur grew worried and warned Noah of the danger, but Noah remained calm. He raised his left hand, summoning 3 magic circles in response, stating that even with the noble's clouded judgment, the magic would be clear. With a shout of thunderbolt, Noah unleashed a strike that obliterated every frozen thorn, sending shockwaves through the spectators. Roofhouse was left in shock as a commoner countered his family's secret magic. Noah apologized that the outcome wasn't what Roofhouse planned, but encouraged him not to lose confidence, asserting that regardless of status, he was the strongest. Refusing to admit defeat, Roofhouse lost his composure entirely. He raised both hands and unleashed his strongest spell, summoning a giant magic rock of ice directly above Noah. Without an incantation, black lightning erupted from Noah's hand, shattering the ice rock completely. The lightning pierced through the magic and struck Roofhouse in the stomach, sending him flying from the impact. His ultimate spell proved powerless against Noah's might. Noah checked on the noble, noting that he had held back but acknowledged Roofhouse's resilience. When Noah reached out to help him up, Roofhouse slapped his hand away, still unwilling to acknowledge him. Arthur urged Roofhouse to drop the rivalry, and Nina pointed out that Noah had never cheated. Finally silent, Roofhouse managed to stand, and with a bitter expression, apologized for doubting Noah. He promised not to provoke him unnecessarily, but insisted this didn't mean he had lost, vowing to repay the humiliation tenfold. Roofhouse walked away in shame, his pride barely intact. Noah felt relieved the harassment would stop, and considered that if Roofhouse grew stronger, it would only improve Noah's own training. The trio looked forward to their future at the academy. Later, Noah took a break on a bench near the school fountain. As he stretched, realizing he had used a significant amount of mana, a girl spotted him and called his name. It was Clarice Rutherford. Noah repeated her name aloud, and the short girl looked confused, wondering how Noah Arclight knew who she was. Noah tried to feign ignorance, having forgotten he had met her as Van, but Clarice saw through the act. Having witnessed his incredible lightning magic during the duel, she pointed a finger and accused him of being the Thunder Emperor. Clarice had witnessed the fierce battle, and the intensity of the lightning magic led her to suspect that Noah was the Thunder Emperor. However, rather than connecting the dots that Van and Noah were the same person, she jumped to a different conclusion. With total confidence, she placed a hand on her chest and declared that Noah must be Van's apprentice. Noah broke into a sweat at her assertion. Clarice further deduced that Noah only knew her name because Van must have mentioned her. She had convinced herself of this narrative so thoroughly that Noah found himself at a loss for words, realizing that denying it might lead to even more complicated questions, especially given how pushy she had been when they met during his Van persona. He decided to play along with the master-disciple story. Noah began to fabricate a background, claiming that he and Van were from the same hometown, and that their magic was so similar the Thunder Emperor had taken him under his wing for a few years. Clarice kicked the ground in envy. As a devoted fan of the youngest S-rank adventurer in history, she began daydreaming about Van. Even without knowing what he looked like under the mask, she pictured him as the embodiment of kindness and a paragon of human virtue. Noah felt compelled to interrupt her thoughts, wondering if they were even talking about the same person. Clarice snapped back, questioning how an apprentice could know so little about his own master's character. Noah quickly deflected, stating they rarely discussed personal or work-related matters during training. This caused Clarice to feel a wave of pity for him. She imagined Van must have been a terrifyingly strict teacher, which only increased her admiration for the Emperor. Invested in Noah's story, she reasoned that a rich boy from the Andestar family stood no chance against a disciple of Van. Noah seized the chance to change the subject, asking how she knew about Roofhouse. Clarice admitted that she was a noble herself, and noted that Roofhouse was well known, as the Andestar family was ranked among the top 5 for ice magic. However, she noted that none of them could outmatch a seasoned adventurer. Adventurers battle monsters stronger than humans every day. There's no way they'd lose to a bunch of mages arguing over which noble house is superior. Noah cautioned her, reminding the A-rank adventurer that overconfidence could lead to trouble. She told him to be quiet, asserting that being Van's apprentice didn't give him the right to act superior. Noah stood his ground. He knew exactly how strong he was, and it had nothing to do with a title. He made it clear that no one in the academy could defeat him. In other words, he was the strongest. Clarice argued that the title belonged to Van, but Noah simply clarified that he was just as strong as his master. Despite their bickering, Noah looked forward to classes starting the next day and challenged Clarice to show him her true capabilities. Clarice expressed her dismay that, unlike the noble Van, his apprentice had a cocky attitude. With a warm smile, Clarice acknowledged how exciting it was to have Van's student at the school and anticipated that Noah would be fighting on their side. Before they parted, Noah pleaded with her to keep his connection to Van a secret to avoid troublesome attention. Clarice promised to keep it quiet, mostly because she didn't want anyone else trying to get close to Van. The next morning, Noah was groggily awakened by a boy in his room. Being a deep sleeper, he mistakenly thought he was back at the cabin and told Shella to let him sleep. He soon realized he was in the dorms with his roommate Rick. Rick insisted they hurry so they wouldn't be late for their first day. Noah urged Rick to go on ahead, but Rick kindly refused, preferring to be late together rather than leave his roommate behind. Noah quickly dressed, and the two raced through the corridors. Arriving at the classrooms out of breath, Noah asked if Rick was even capable of fighting in such an exhausted state. Rick explained that he didn't engage in direct combat, leading Noah to guess he specialized in summoning or creation magic. Though Rick was in a different class, he offered to guide Noah and warned him about a certain noble in Class B who held a deep disdain for commoners. Noah entered his classroom to find everyone seated, though the teacher had not yet arrived. Arthur and Nina waved him over, inviting him to sit with them. Arthur noted that Noah nearly didn't make it, and Nina asked if he'd had trouble sleeping. Noah admitted he had simply overslept and credited his roommate's kindness for getting him there. Nina revealed that her own roommate was Clarice Rutherford, whom she described as a good person. Soon, a woman with a mole under her right eye entered and introduced herself as Ellis Northburn, the homeroom teacher for Class A. She explained that while specialists would teach various magic fields, she would be their main point of contact. Introductions followed. Nina von Raymond went first, expressing her desire to be treated as an equal, despite being a duke's daughter. The class was already in awe of her, given her family's prestige and her sister's reputation. Other students followed. Leo Albert, a Marcus son who hoped to hone his skills, Huey Narks, who arrogantly stated he had no interest in weaklings, and Monica Welshia, a count's daughter who claimed to be a genius who passed without effort. Natalie Collette vowed to represent her archery magic family. And finally, Clarice Rutherford introduced herself. As an A-rank adventurer on hiatus, she garnered significant attention, with many seeing her as the next rising star to follow in Van's footsteps. Once the introductions concluded, Ellis Northburn regained control of the room. She emphasized that from this point forward, titles, whether noble or commoner, held no weight. She outlined the curriculum, which focused on hands-on combat, monster battles, and adventure quests. She explained that classroom learning would only dominate the first year, with combat training beginning in the second. Ellis then highlighted two major milestones: the monster subjugation training in Rimba and the entrance festival. The festival was a school tradition where upperclassmen tested the freshmen to see if they were worthy of the academy. The winners would gain immense honor and fame. Noah smiled with genuine excitement. His new life at the academy had finally begun. Noah Arclight began the morning by showcasing his refined lightning spells, effortlessly obliterating two practice dummies and instantly grabbing the attention of the entire class. While his classmates were shocked that a commoner could wield such devastating power, for Arthur and Nina, this had already become a normal occurrence. When the lunch bell rang, the trio shared a whole chicken meal to recover from the exhaustion of their morning classes. Arthur, though dissatisfied with his own performance, vowed to demonstrate his true abilities during the upcoming monster subjugation in Rimba. Their meal was interrupted by a classmate expressing admiration for Noah's prowess, marveling at the latent talent found in a commoner. Leo Albert had also taken notice. It was rare for a noble to offer such an unbiased assessment, but Leo's genuine love for magic allowed him to see Noah as a fortunate rival rather than a social inferior. Arthur could only sigh, feeling overshadowed by his friend's growing fame. As the next class began, the instructor sternly reminded the students that being mages did not exempt them from physical combat. He emphasized that mages frequently find themselves in situations where they must rely on their fists. Nina struggled during the session, as she was used to relying on her high-tier summons and had never fought hand-to-hand. Nearby, Noah dominated his matches against his partner, Natalie Collette. After knocking the braided ponytail girl down, Noah helped her up. Natalie expressed surprise that he excelled in martial arts as well as lightning magic. Noah explained that since one of his spells enhances his physical abilities, he requires a strong body to handle the strain. Seizing a moment of distraction, Natalie attempted to trip him, but Noah countered instantly, pinning her to the floor. Defeated and blushing, Natalie claimed she would have won if magic were allowed, as the prestigious Collette family's magic was superior. When Noah told her he admired her confidence, her face flushed pink, and she flusteredly told him he should only say such things to a girl he intended to marry. Once combat class was dismissed, the students changed back into their regular clothes. Arthur approached Noah, feeling encouraged that he might actually have a chance to defeat him in a barehanded fight, since Noah admitted he was more accustomed to magic. However, before they could leave, their path was blocked by a muscular upperclassman named Benjamin Doma. Doma, looking for a challenge, used rock manipulation magic to punch the ground, sending a powerful shockwave that knocked down students on both sides. Arthur used a rod to block the debris, while Nina and Clarice used used their respective summoning and water magic to divert the assault. Noah, however, effortlessly dodged the strike and obliterated the remaining rocks with lightning. A female senior stepped in to reprimand Doma for going too far with the freshman. Doma defended himself, claiming this was the fastest way to scout for real contenders before the welcome festival. He singled out Noah as the standout of the class. When Noah gave a lackluster response, Doma took offense until Noah clarified his goal. He didn't just want to be at the top of the class. He wanted to be the strongest in the entire academy. Impressed by his mindset, Doma challenged Noah to a fight. While Arthur and Nina worried it was too much, Clarice was confident Noah could win. Just as they were about to clash, Natalia warned Doma that Haruka from the vigilante squad wouldn't stay quiet if this goes any further. Doma decided to back off for now, promising Noah they would fight sooner than he thought. He urged Noah to remember his name before leaving the training grounds in ruins. As the seniors departed, Arthur marveled at the strength of the Doma bloodline, but Noah seemed energized, wishing more people like Benjamin would stir up trouble to keep things exciting. Arthur, realizing his own passive mindset wouldn't restore his family's glory, vowed to one day surpass Noah. The moment of determination was interrupted by the arrival of a female senior carrying a sword. She introduced herself as Haruka from the vigilante squad, responsible for maintaining order at the academy. When Arthur mocked her for arriving after the chaos had already ended, Haruka took offense and suggested the freshmen were to blame for the disturbance. Arthur tried to get Noah to clarify their innocence, but Noah calmly stated they had done nothing wrong and knew nothing of her squad. Insulted by his tone, Haruka drew her sword and pointed it directly at Noah, questioning his intentions. Haruka swung her sword with blinding speed, but her eyes widened in shock as Noah vanished. Reappearing instantly behind her, Noah calmly told her to put down her sword, adding that it wasn't them who had caused the disturbance. Haruka swiftly stepped back to create distance. Realizing he had easily dodged her Aido strike, she became certain he was the one who had harmed the students. As Arthur and Nina scrambled to clarify that Noah would never do such a thing, Noah realized his teasing had gone too far. Standing out was fine, but he wasn't looking to become infamous. He raised his hands, informing Haruka that the real culprit was a guy named Doma. She noticed the residue of earth magic nearby, and realized it likely was Benjamin Doma. She apologized for the misunderstanding, and asked for the full story. After the incident, Noah and Nina stretched their arms, reflecting on how quirky the upperclassmen were. Nina had heard that the Doma family's eldest son was a loose cannon, but he had exceeded her expectations. Even Haruka Ichinos from the security corps was incredibly hot-blooded, attacking out of nowhere. Realizing there were all kinds of people in this academy, Noah advised Nina to be careful. Being from a Dockle house put her in a risky position where nothing would be surprising. Even in a secure place like this, there was no telling who might come after her. Nina thanked him for staying by her side, but expressed confidence that she could eventually handle things herself, noting she had come a long way to enroll. The other day, while Arthur was amazed by the facilities, Nina was in awe of seeing monsters for the first time. However, she was startled when a monster let out a sudden roar. Noah told her not to overreact, because the creatures were behind bars. Clarice, thinking Nina was too soft, boasted that an adventurer like herself was used to this kind of thing. Observing that everyone had gathered, the professor explained that this was the academy's underground monster containment facility. On this floor, they raised monsters ranked B and below for student training, magic research, summoning practice, and alchemy research. Essentially, they used monsters for experiments or training that couldn't be performed on humans. Because of the danger and secrecy, the area was protected by two strong barriers. Noah observed the barrier and silently noted that it was actually 4 layers. He wondered if they claimed it was only 2 on purpose to hide the real level of security. It only served to show how dangerous the place truly was. Noah observed that there were quite a lot of monsters inside. He recalled the professor's mention of B rank limits, and knew that among the B ranks the most feared were the Cerberus and the Chimera. Their power was said to already be at the A rank level. While subjugation quests were available for B rank adventurers, most avoided taking on those 2 specifically. He looked at one heavily secured cage and noticed it held a Chimera. Though he could not see clearly inside, the professor told them they could look around freely but warned them not to touch any monsters inside the cages. They had been trained to be less wild than those in nature, but the professor mentioned an idiot who once messed around and opened a goblin cage, which did not end well. As they looked at an orc, Clarice explained they were aggressive and bred quickly, often appearing in groups. They were a rite of passage for beginner adventurers. Nina was amazed, expecting such knowledge from an adventurer. Knowing Nina used summoning magic, Noah inquired if she was unfamiliar with monsters. Nina responded that she had read about them in books but hadn't seen many in person. Furthermore, most of her contracts were with spirits. However, she was interested in monsters, and found this facility helpful, thinking she might have to control one herself someday. Noah warned her that even low-tier monsters could kill her if she let her guard down. Hearing that, Arthur realized from the way Noah spoke that he knew a lot about monsters. Noah agreed, informing him that he was from the countryside where they were everywhere. A woman holding a book asked if they were first years. After Nina confirmed it, the woman recognized her as a member of the Raymond family. The woman introduced herself as Serena Yugadoria, a third-year student who studied and raised monsters. She informed them that she had received permission from Professor Solfa to conduct her research here. When Noah asked if her specialty was alchemy, she was surprised he figured it out so quickly. Noah explained he had seen her book before, and knew alchemy required test subjects. Serena noted that alchemy was an obscure branch of magic magic, and was impressed by Noah's knowledge. Noah replied that alchemy was different from other magic because it could be replicated by anyone who knew the formulas, making it popular among commoner mages. While nobles had dedicated healers, those in the countryside relied on alchemists for potions. Serena asked his name, and her eyes widened in surprise upon hearing it. She recalled that Doma was interested in a first-year named Noah. She warned him that Doma was a pain to deal with, who treated people terribly and then got disappointed in them. Since Doma expected Noah to show up, she assumed Noah was a capable mage. Noah affirmed it, adding that Doma at least had a decent eye. Serena then turned to Nina, offering to teach her everything she knew about monsters. Nina accepted and thanked her. Meanwhile, Noah silently agreed that this was for the best. It was better for Nina to learn from a specialist than an adventurer like him. Noah told Nina to listen to Serena while he relaxed. Before they began their tour, Noah sternly warned Nina not to underestimate the monsters, emphasizing that she must never attempt to touch them carelessly. The two then proceeded to visit every cage, with Serena providing detailed explanations of each creature. When their time was up, Serena invited Nina to return, mentioning that while the facility usually requires special permission, she could facilitate Nina's entry if they came together. Nina thanked her warmly and promised to return, later telling her companions that the academy was already worth the effort just for the lessons that couldn't be found in books. She was particularly touched by Serena's kindness and her offer to continue their lessons. Back in the classroom, Professor Ellis informed the students that the extracurricular training in the Rimba Forest would finally take place the following week. She explained that it was less a standard class and more of an annual tradition, a warm-up for the upcoming welcoming festival. The academy planned to release its own captive-bred monsters into the forest for a simulated hunt, serving as a rehearsal for real adventuring missions. Ellis noted that while a former adventurer like Clarice might be accustomed to such tasks, most students had never hunted before. She stressed that nothing provides experience quite like putting one's life on the line, offering a rare chance to use powers they wouldn't dare unleash against humans. Hearing this, Arthur leaned toward Noah and asked if the Academy's monsters were less dangerous than wild ones. Noah confirmed this, explaining that because noble children are unaccustomed to life and death combat, the school breeds tamed monsters specifically for training. He noted that wild monsters, especially when wounded, will retaliate with everything they have, whereas captive-bred creatures are used to prevent such unpredictable accidents. Arthur felt a wave of relief, admitting that wild monsters sounded terrifying, and that he was glad for the safer practice. However, Noah warned him that underestimating even these monsters would lead to regret. He reminded Arthur that monsters cause countless casualties every year. When Arthur wondered aloud if he even had the resolve to kill a creature, Noah looked him directly in the eye. He stated firmly that these creatures do not hold back, and if Arthur hesitated for even a moment, it could cost him his life. Regardless of whether the monsters were bred in captivity, Arthur froze in fear at the gravity of the warning. Ellis reminded the class that monsters remain a constant threat to humanity, and that despite their skills, they were still only first years. For the upcoming event, she announced that the students would be assigned to parties of 3, starting with the first group, the reliable trio of Noah, Arthur, and Nina. The day after the exercise groups were announced, Noah felt something strange in the air as he observed the forest. Serena approached him, asking if he was out for a nighttime stroll. Noah inquired how Nina was doing with her studies, and Serena remarked that she was incredibly dedicated and a joy to teach. She noted that while most treat monsters as nothing but enemies, the mindset of summoners who try to befriend them makes the work rewarding. Furthermore, Serena mentioned that Nina spoke of Noah often, recounting how he had helped her during enrollment and calling him the greatest mage she knows. When she brings him up, it is nothing but praise. Noah felt honored to hear that. Though he commented that the academy isn't exactly kind to commoners like him, he expressed sincere gratitude toward Nina and felt relieved to hear she was enjoying herself. He then raised the topic of the upcoming Rimba exercise. Serena asked if he wasn't interested, noting that most students here are from noble families. Plenty of them have never even fought monsters, and usually get overexcited about events like this. Noah countered that he had seen his share of monsters, so he was used to them. While he was not especially concerned, he emphasized that monsters can be dangerous no matter the kind, so he could not afford to drop his guard. Serena could tell that he was cautious, observing that it matched what she had heard about his abilities, specifically that he did not consider monsters all that threatening. She told him it was getting late, and pointed out that the academy at night is full of risks, advising him to get back soon. She warned that you never know what might happen, especially with the upperclassmen who get buried in research and tend to build up stress. Compared to most, she considered herself on the saner end. She cautioned him to watch himself, explaining that Nina was a good girl, but her status in a Dakhel family made her a target for some. In response, Noah asserted that no matter who they were, he would protect Nina. Serena reminded him that even if he was strong, he was still just a first year. She acknowledged his desire to look out for her, but suggested he should keep his distance before trouble found him. Noah remained silent for a moment before responding that it was pretty cold of her. Serena maintained that such an outlook was simply how one survives in a place like this. Noah asked if it was a warning, but Serena clarified it was just advice from someone who had been there longer than he had. Noah understood and told her not to worry about it. He was the strongest there was, and he would knock off any sparks that fly Nina's way. He insisted that Nina herself wasn't weak either. Serena just agreed agreed, stating she had already given her advice. Noah thanked her for the counsel and told her to be careful as they parted. After a while, at the edge of the forest, the professor told the students to let the moment be burned into their memory. This was their first trial of their first year. He instructed them to form groups of 3 to hunt down goblins released into the Rimba forest. Supervisors would count how many each party defeats, and the final results would be posted throughout the academy. The professor explained that each goblin defeated earns 1 point. He warned that the simpler the rules, the easier it is to get careless, especially for those from noble families who have very little contact with monsters, which often leads to serious injuries. He told them to stay sharp, approach with focus, and be prepared, adding that supervisors would only step in if things got dire. A semi-bald student reminded the professor that they were elite, claiming there was no way they would mess up. The professor warned him that such arrogance was exactly what he was talking about. The student told the professor not to underestimate them, declaring that whatever applies to commoners doesn't apply to nobility. Huey stepped in and told the semi-bald student to cram those words into his empty head. He argued that idiots like him drag teammates down to ruin. Pointing his finger at the student's forehead, Huey told him not to take monsters lightly, or he would be the one who ended up humiliated. He moved closer, noting that nobles sure are something else, and told him to do everyone a favor and not hold them back. The semi-bald student clicked his tongue, telling Huey he had better remember this. In response, Huey called him pathetic, labeling them as soft little rich boys. The professor asked if they were done with the pointless bickering, remarking that if someone like that screws up, it is the supervisor who gets dragged in. He reminded them that supervisors are not bodyguards. Their main job is to evaluate, and they won't intervene unless things become truly dangerous. After that, Noah's group supervisor Theo waved his hand and told them he was counting on them. He reminded them that he would mainly be watching from behind to track their actions and skills. He told them not to worry, as he would step in if things got truly dangerous. He acknowledged it was likely their first time facing monsters, and that it was natural to misjudge their strength. He told them to trust their own strength and their teammates. From behind, Clarice approached Noah, stating that Theo was the same as always and way too soft. She told Noah that goblins weren't even real enemies for the two of them. Noah agreed, suggesting that since it was the student's first real subjugation, a little caution was fine. Clarice maintained she could take down monsters at full force right from the beginning, and knew the same went for him. Noah agreed, claiming he was the strongest from the start and killed them easily. Clarice couldn't believe there was someone with an even more unhinged mindset than hers. She pointed her finger at him, declaring that the strongest is Lord Van. She sighed and finally agreed, noting that this kind of thing was her specialty as a former adventurer. She declared that her group would be taking the top score. Noah chuckled before stating that his group was not planning to lose either. Clarice liked his spirit and told him they should give everything they had. He must not disappoint her. In response, Noah told her to show him the strength of an A-rank adventurer. After that, the professor asked the students if they were prepared, telling them to face the goblins with resolve. He called it a battle to prove their strength and show they were not useless. He ordered the mission to start, telling them to enter the forest from their assigned positions and wishing them luck. As the 3 walked, Noah observed that a forest this quiet was quite rare, likely due to how well the academy maintains it. He stated he was going for first place, and was itching to find some goblins. Nina shared what she had learned from Serena. Goblins rank highest in damage taken across bowler. They travel in groups of 4 to 5, making it easy to get surrounded. She warned that if they let their guard down, the monsters would rip them apart in seconds. Each one is tough and has enough brains to act, but the worst part is, they always move in packs. On the flip side, she noted that moving as a group makes their tracks easier to find. They hid in a bush, sweating as they laid eyes on a group of goblins. Above, Theo perched upon a thick tree branch, observing the group while holding a pen and a sheet of wooden paper. He remained poised to record his findings, eager to see what this year's crop of new students was truly made of. Catching sight of their weapons, Arthur inquired about their next move. Noah responded firmly that they would fight, declaring that the training exercise had officially begun. He stood up and reassured his teammates, insisting they not worry because he would take the lead. As Noah advanced toward the goblins, the creatures immediately prepared a coordinated defense. They lunged at him simultaneously, but Noah remained unfazed. He cast a 3-layer magic circle and unleashed a thunderbolt, instantly electrocuting the misshapen monsters. While his 2 companions watched in amazement, Noah viewed the result as expected, noting they were only goblins after all. He explained that he simply caught his magic as he always did, claiming there was nothing special about the feat. He encouraged them by stating they would be fine as well, advising them to utilize their magic as they normally would. However, he cautioned that hesitating too long would lead to them being surrounded, emphasizing that speed is everything in combat. Arthur examined a fallen goblin, and asked to confirm that Noah wasn't an adventurer. When Noah confirmed this, Arthur reflected on how calm Noah remained, as if he had performed such tasks 100 times before. Noah clarified that back in Lowood, they were forced to fight frequently. Even the villagers had to stand against goblins on occasion. Theo then jumped down from his perch, noting that Noah had already secured 4 kills. He praised Noah's ability to dispatch the targets cleanly, and his composure while surrounded, stating he had no complaints regarding the performance. Hearing this, Arthur realized he and Nina needed to step up. They resolved not to let Noah be the only one looking impressive. reminding themselves they were mages and now had a formidable example to follow. It was their turn to shine. Noah welcomed their spirit and urged them to show him what they could do, remarking that it would be boring if he wiped out every goblin by himself. Crossing his arms, Noah decided to let Arthur and Nina take the lead to focus on their growth. He reflected that he never truly had the chance for teamwork during his days as a solo adventurer under the name Van. The group continued their trek, with Nina and Arthur utilizing their skills to defeat the monsters they encountered. Nina dispatched goblins with the assistance of her spirits, while Arthur relied on his sword. Noah praised their efforts, noting it was not a bad showing for their first time. He specifically complimented Nina, mentioning that her salamander fire spirit was cute and that firepower summoners were formidable. He pointed out that her ability to switch elements through her spirits provided a significant advantage, an ability he found truly amazing. Noah's praise made Nina visibly happy. Theo updated the tally, listing 8 kills for Noah and 2 each for Nina and Arthur, bringing the party total to 12. He remarked that it was a solid start. Arthur bumped his fist, asserting that he would prove the party wasn't just about Noah and Nina. Noah reminded him of the instructor's warning about overconfidence, noting that getting used to winning and letting it go to one's head is when things become truly dangerous. He urged Arthur to stay sharp. Arthur agreed and suggested heading deeper into the woods. As they progressed, Arthur boasted of his true power after his 4th kill. However, he was shocked to turn around and see even more goblins already littering the ground. Theo announced that Nina had reached 8 kills while Noah was at 14. He noted that at this rate they would certainly rank near the top compared to previous years. Arthur cheered at the news, praising Noah and Nina's excellence, though he felt a sting of frustration at having the lowest count. Noah approached him, observing that although Arthur had looked unsure at the start, taking down 4 was more than enough. Arthur replied that Noah was as kind as ever, and noted Nina's impressive count of 8. Nina chuckled, explaining that her spirits were doing the heavy lifting. Arthur conceded that her method was a legitimate form of magic, but secretly cursed his lack of progress. He yearned to stand shoulder to shoulder with his teammates, realizing that if he aimed for the top, he had to do much more. Suddenly, Nina's eyes widened as she spotted a threat, quickly warning Arthur that a goblin was behind him. As Arthur turned, a claw was already inches from his face. Before it could strike, Noah intervened with a lightning spark, throwing the goblin back until it was crushed against a tree. Noah sighed, telling Arthur he had been too careless. Huey arrived at that moment, questioning why Arthur struggled with such trash. He mocked Arthur's background, stating it was exactly what he expected from a typical fallen noble family. Huey remarked that letting one's guard down to be stabbed by a weakling proved Arthur was a noble in name only. He moved closer, asking if Arthur had anything to say in his defense. Noah intervened, questioning Huey's sudden appearance and arrogant tone. He reminded Huey that everyone starts somewhere, and told him to keep his taunts in check, warning that Huey might be the one to end up embarrassed later. Huey laughed, calling commoners carefree and asserting there was a world of difference in their skills. He disparagingly categorized the group as average commoners, a sheltered young lady and a fallen noble, a rough lineup by his estimation. Noah responded that Huey seemed far too full of himself, adding that from his perspective Huey and Arthur were not much different. Huey inquired about their kill count, and Theo informed him they had 28 total, 15 for Noah, 9 for Nina and 4 for Arthur. Huey boasted that he had taken down 23 by himself, claiming he was on a completely different level. He called them losers and stated that even losers must try hard not to die. Noah watched him leave in silence, thinking that such overconfidence is dangerous when hunting monsters. He wondered if he should bother warning him. Arthur apologized, noting that Huey seemed riled up because of him. Noah told him not to worry, clarifying that while Huey wasn't weak, the difference between him and Arthur wasn't as extreme as Huey claimed. He chuckled and predicted that Arthur would improve significantly from this experience, as the day was about acclimating to real combat. Motivated by the exchange, Arthur declared he would not back down after Huey's insults. Nina asked if Arthur would be alright, and Noah assured her he would. He recalled Arthur's goal from the entrance ceremony to reach the top, noting that Huey's taunts had likely only fired him up more. They continued their journey, defeating more monsters. Nina noticed Arthur was performing well, and Arthur thanked her for the backup. Nina pointed out that Noah was watching their backs as well, which explained why they were safer against surprise attacks. Arthur thanked Noah for allowing him to take the lead. Noah told him not to worry, repeating that he was already used to fighting, and that gaining experience was more important for his teammates. He then checked if Nina's spirits were holding up. Nina confirmed that her summoning time was still fine, and that they weren't even halfway through yet, noting she had saved enough energy to use Sara later. Arthur realized they had traveled quite far and asked for their location. Theo informed them they were near the center of the forest and approaching the limit of their designated area, suggesting it was time to head south. Arthur nodded, mentioning they would likely pass Huey's group along the way. Suddenly, a loud scream echoed through the trees, and the group decided to investigate. Arthur reached out to stop Noah, questioning if they truly intended to head toward the scream. He pointed out that since a supervisor was with the other group, they should be fine on their own, and their own results were currently on the line. He argued that the enemy was supposed to be nothing but goblins, and that injuries were a normal occurrence in this annual drill. Noah reminded him that they were dealing with monsters, and that anything could happen. He noted that if a supervisor was already handling the situation, that would be ideal, but there was always a chance something could go wrong. He asserted that if he were there, he could definitely settle the matter. Arthur paused, observing that while Noah looked cold, he was actually quite soft-hearted. Noah countered that it wasn't about being soft-hearted, it was a habit he had maintained since long before his enrollment. He then instructed the two to move. When they arrived at the source of the scream, they were shocked to find trees uprooted and lying on the ground. It was immediately clear that goblins could not have caused such destruction. Theo noticed someone collapse near a tree and recognized him as the second-year supervisor who had been assigned to Huey's group. Arthur questioned why a supervisor was on the verge of death, asking if the forest wasn't supposed to contain only goblins. Noah told him to look around, noting that the environment itself proved goblins weren't responsible. He concluded that something far more dangerous was up ahead, a monster strong enough to push a supervisor to the brink of death, and that Huey's group might currently be its prey. Theo agreed, noting that the injured supervisor was luckily still breathing, but required a healer immediately. He instructed Arthur to help him carry the man back to the teachers, promising to return once the supervisor was safe. However, fearing that Huey and the others might double back to this location, he asked Noah to stay and wait. Theo expressed total confidence that Noah would be fine on his own, even without them. As he prepared to leave with the wounded man, he warned Noah not to do anything risky and to run if he encountered something too powerful. As they departed, Noah inspected the wounds on the supervisor's back, noting they looked like claw marks from a very large monster. Nina finally spoke, expressing her hope that the man would be okay. Noah told her that while the wounds were deep, the supervisor would likely pull through, as he hadn't been chosen for the role for nothing. More importantly, he voiced his concern about the monster up ahead, wondering if Huey's group was still being pursued. Suddenly, another loud scream pierced the air, sounding dangerously close. Noah rushed toward the sound to help, but Nina stopped him, reminding him that Theo had instructed them to stay put. Noah reminded her that Huey's group currently had no supervisor to protect them. If they were abandoned now, they would die. Deciding to join him, Nina followed as they raced toward the noise. When they arrived, they found an arrogant but battered Huey leaning against a tree. He was mumbling to himself that no one had told them about this kind of danger. When asked if he was okay, Huey looked up and saw Noah and Nina. He remarked that the commoner boy and the sheltered princess had finally decided to show up, calling it the last thing he wanted to see. He asked if they had come simply to laugh at him. Noah silently observed the claw marks on Huey's chest and the bite on his arm, concluding that while the injuries were severe, none were outright fatal. He told Huey that he wasn't heartless enough to laugh at someone half dead, though he noted that after all of Huey's big talk earlier, he looked quite pathetic now. Huey advised them to run while they still could, pointing toward the monster and noting that even a second-year supervisor had been taken down. He urged them to tuck tail and flee. Noah thanked him for the warning but stated he was not about to abandon a dying person. Huey told him not to act cool and warned that the monster was closing in. At that moment, a chimera came into view. Noah immediately realized the creature was far too strong for students to handle. He silently noted that while its subjugation rank was B class, its power was closer to A class. Terrified, Nina questioned why a chimera would be here, pointing out that the Academy's management of the forest should have ensured only goblins were present. Noah observed the creature, thinking that he had never seen a chimera of such massive size. He moved closer, reasoning that there was no way it had grown naturally in this forest. He found it impossible to imagine the Academy intentionally releasing a monster a supervisor couldn't handle, and he wondered about its visible state of agitation, sensing that its condition was unnatural. The chimera lunged, bypassing Noah to target the more vulnerable Nina and Huey. Before its claws could reach Nina, Noah moved with blinding speed to grab both of them and dodge the attack. Huey cursed, complaining that he was already injured. Noah replied that a few bruises were better than being sliced in half by those claws. He then checked if Nina was alright, apologizing for not having the time to be gentle when he grabbed her. Nina assured him she was fine, noting that he had saved her once again. Seeing Noah stretching his arms and preparing himself, Huey asked what he was doing, insisting there was no way he could handle such a beast. Noah told him to be quiet and pointed a finger toward the chimera, stating that it was time for pest control. Noah observed that something was fundamentally off about the chimera, noting that it was far too aggressive. He wondered if the beast was currently watching them, having grown cautious after his last maneuver. Nina suggested using his teleportation technique to help all three of them escape, but Noah informed her that they couldn't leave. He believed that if they abandoned the creature here, other student parties could become casualties. Furthermore, he pointed out that with Huey's injuries, the noble would not survive a long-distance retreat. He told Nina to relax, reminding her that he was the strongest, and to simply sit back and trust him as she always did. He advised her not to let fear show in front of a monster, as such vulnerability would only make her its prey. Reaching out, he pinched her face and instructed her to steady her breath and stay calm. He added that the fear of a monster creates openings, and even if a fighter is stronger, a single gap is all it takes for things to end. He told her to bury that fear deep inside her heart, because he was right there with her. As he urged her to breathe and settle down, Nina agreed and tried to regain her composure. When the chimera let out a roar, Noah instructed Nina to watch closely what he was about to do. Observing the beast rushing toward her, Noah questioned mockingly if it was a flirt or something similar. He ordered the monster to look at him as he cast a spell, releasing a lightning spark that struck the chimera's head. As the monster groaned, Noah noticed it was still fixated on Nina, wondering to himself if she was some kind of monster magnet. He had never heard of such a trait, so he decided he would figure it out after bringing the beast down. The chimera launched its snake-headed tail to attack, but Noah activated his lightning cutter and sliced the appendage in half. As the chimera groaned again. Noah smirked, stating that a simple tail slice was enough to make it howl like that. The beast pounced at him, but he easily stepped back to dodge, before jumping to kick it squarely in the face. Witnessing this feat left both Nina and Huey amazed. Noah then activated another magic circle and launched a lightning spark at the chimera's head, knocking the creature to the ground. However, the chimera stood once more, roaring at him. Noah realized then that something was definitely wrong. Normally a creature would have retreated by now. It seemed as though its survival instincts were not kicking in, leading him to conclude that its aggression had been forcibly amplified, perhaps through drugs or sensory manipulation. He thought that the chimera might be a victim itself, and while he found it tragic, he knew they couldn't let it live and simply walk away. Deciding he had no choice but to end it quickly, Noah gathered his power into his palm and struck the chimera with his black thunder. With that final attack, the monster was finally taken down. Seeing that the battle was over, Nina realized that black thunder was devastating when aimed at a living creature, understanding now why Noah had targeted only the magic and not Roofhouse during their previous encounter. Noah remarked to Nina that the chimera lacked any natural fighting instinct and had no drive to defend itself, which was why it hadn't even tried to dodge his attacks. He noted that normally the fear of death would force any creature to flee, confirming his suspicion that this was not a wild monster. Even so, Nina was amazed at his power, stating that no one uses magic in such a way normally, and adding that he had taken it down in a flash. She then approached Huey, asking if he was okay. Huey mumbled in response that he never thought he would witness something that entertaining. Nina advised him not to talk too much, promising to get him to a healing mage immediately. Huey told her to quit fussing and not to worry about him, but Nina reminded him that they were classmates, so of course she was worried. Huey chuckled and looked at Noah, stating it was time he rethought the way he perceived the commoner. Noah observed the carcass and noticed that the chimera's tongue was stained blue and its eyeballs were dyed crimson, definite side effects of a drug. He reasoned that if it were magic, there wouldn't be such lingering traces after the spell was cancelled. He also noticed the quality of its shiny fur and realized something significant. Standing up, he told the other two they would head back for now to get Huey treated right away. Huey expressed disbelief that he would end up being saved by them. Noah told him not to sweat it, adding that no one takes down a chimera easily, and that losing didn't mean he was weak. He maintained that he was simply the strongest, a claim Huey smiled at and agreed with for the time being. Meanwhile, Theo and Arthur were running toward the lightning they had seen. Upon finding the three, Arthur asked if they were okay. Huey told him to shut up, adding that Arthur's voice was splitting his skull. Seeing that reaction, Arthur was certain Huey was far from being okay, noting that there had been a massive burst of light and sound from this direction. Noah informed him that the display had been his doing. Arthur asked if he had finished the threat, and upon seeing the fallen monster, he was shocked to realize it was a massive chimera. Huey told him he was being too loud, and instructed him to hurry up and carry him out of the forest, claiming he was going to die. After defeating the chimera, the group returned to the starting point of the exercise to report the incident. The instructors immediately halted the training and led senior students into the forest to conduct a thorough investigation. It was discovered that Noah was the only one who had faced and defeated a chimera, as no other threats were found within the perimeter. Shortly thereafter, the training resumed, and the event concluded without further trouble. Huey was transported to a healing mage. Though his wounds were deep, the consensus was that he would manage to recover. That night, Noah spotted Serena and questioned if she was out for another nighttime stroll. Serena appeared surprised by his presence and turned to respond. Noting she had heard reports of a chimera barging into the exercise, she remarked that she had been deeply worried. Noah told her not to play dumb. Serena remained silent, privately reflecting that she had honestly expected Noah to die. Noticing her lack of response, Noah asked directly if she was the one who had released the chimera to target Nina. Serena asked why he would think such a thing, to which he replied that he had found something after killing the beast. He showed her a nameplate, explaining that it identified a breeding site located beneath the Monster Academy. He theorized that the plate had been buried in the fur as the chimera grew, and was simply never retrieved. He asserted that much like the goblins, the chimera had been raised underground before being released into the forest. Serena questioned what that had to do with her, pointing out that there were several others managing the breeding site. Noah told her to calm down and listen, noting that there were even more connections pointing toward her. He observed that the chimera's killing instinct was completely out of control and focused solely on murder, which he attributed to a berserk drug created through alchemy. He stated that the reactions detected in the chimera's body induced berserk states and accelerated physical growth were proof of her work. He accused her of raising a perfect killing machine. In response, Serena remarked that alchemy is not exactly a rare craft. Noah countered that she was someone who studied advanced alchemy and held a position that allowed her to breed monsters. He then questioned why the chimera had targeted Nina specifically, suggesting it was due to Nina's biological data. He accused her of collecting hair and blood samples while she was with Nina in the underground facility to use as a foundation for her alchemy. He concluded that she was the only one who fit every condition. Serena finally agreed, confessing that she was indeed the one who tried to kill Nina. Noah expressed surprise that she admitted to it so easily. Serena replied that there was no point in hiding it anymore, noting she knew she would eventually be found out. However, she admitted she had not expected Noah to survive, let alone kill the chimera. According to her plan, everyone was supposed to die, and she would have escaped the academy to end the matter. She remarked that Noah was clearly someone Doma and Haruka held in high regard for a reason. Noah apologized for ruining her plan. Serena Serena replied that even though it was a job she had been given, she had not only been caught but had failed as well. She stated she would simply run away now. Noah asked if she truly thought she could escape. Serena chuckled, claiming she still had strong allies outside the academy who trusted her. Noah observed that she had come prepared, and asked what her ultimate goal was, and why she was targeting Nina. Serena reminded him of her earlier words, that while Nina was a good girl, her status in a duckle house made her a target. Noah asked if she expected him to believe such a stupid story. Serena replied that it was not stupid, asserting that the future of the country depended on it. She explained that the king did not have much time left, and the battle for the throne had already begun, meaning even powerful duckle families could not avoid involvement. She noted she was merely repeating what she had been told, and personally did not care whether the target was Nina or someone else. Noah admitted he did not fully understand the politics, but he could see her determination and stated he would not ask anything further. Serena called that a great decision and told him to let her go finish the job by killing Nina. Noah replied that if she went after Nina, he would never forgive her. Serena remarked that if he intended to protect Nina, then she supposed she didn't stand a chance. She stated she would take her leave for a faraway country to live peacefully. Noah asked if she really believed he would let her escape. Serena acknowledged that since he defeated the chimera, he could likely stop her from leaving. However, she warned that if all her allies attacked at once, not even he would be able to handle them. She raised her hands and thanked him for buying her time, remarking that the past few days had been fun and she had wished to talk with him more. She expressed hope that her allies would not end up killing him. As a group of her allies suddenly materialized on the roof, Serena asked if Noah was shivering and inquired if he intended to run. Before she could finish, Noah instructed her to look above. To her shock, all of her allies were defeated in a single slash by Haruka, who appeared swiftly behind her and pressed a sword to her neck. Noah told her that she wasn't the only one who had allies. Sweating, Serena asked who Haruka was. Haruka introduced herself as the one who hunts evil, noting that Serena's allies had already been put to sleep. She stated it was their duty to protect the peace of the academy, and that she would not let Serena have her way. Noah apologized for ratting her out, adding that if he had handled it himself, he likely would have gone too far and killed them all. He told her she should feel lucky to be caught by Haruka instead. Serena gritted her teeth, responding that her downfall was underestimating his capability and willpower. Noah agreed, noting that if he hadn't been there, Nina would have been in the belly of the chimera while Serena basked under a foreign sun. Serena eventually calmed down, stating that she had no place left at the academy after failing. She told Noah to do as he liked and to tell Nina goodbye, noting she would no longer be able to enter the facility. She mentioned that once Noah advanced a grade, he might convince the teachers to let him in. Noah asked if she actually cared about Nina and promised to make sure she heard the message. Haruka asked if that was all Serena had to say before ordering her comrades to take her away. Once they left, Haruka praised Noah for his work, stating he had truly saved them. Noah inquired about Serena's fate, noting she was Nina's favorite. Haruka replied that because Serena had caused an incident involving other students and targeted a duckle family, it would not end as a simple fight. She explained that Serena would be judged in the proper place, though the matter was delicate and Noah likely wouldn't be told the details, perhaps not even Haruka herself. Noah understood and expressed gladness that he had been around when it happened. Haruka asked if he had considered joining the Vigilante Corps, noting his skills would make him a perfect fit. She remarked that the academy had many mages with twisted minds, and having someone like him could help keep them in check. Noah replied that while he didn't have zero interest in being an enforcer, he would help out if something arose. Haruka agreed and waved goodbye, stating they would count on him if anything happened again. Chapters end at 13. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you love this manga. Have a good day.